Okay, so we're going to start sewing the Geo Raglan. The first step is going to be to put the sleeves on. So here's the front piece, and here's the two sleeves. The front will be lower. This will come down lower so that seam is a little bit shorter. So you'll match that lower edge to the sleeve edge on the front here. Right sides of fabric together. Just like that, and serge it on. And then we'll do the same thing for the other sleeve at the same time. Back piece of the sweatshirt. And do the same thing for the back of the sleeve. So first we'll match this arm edge to this back and serge it on. Okay, now that both sleeves are sewn on, it should kind of look like this for the front, and then this for the back. Alright, so the next step is going to be to serge the sleeve closed, but only to the armpit. So you'll get to the armpit and just veer right off there. Okay, before going any further, we're going to do the pocket. Your pocket here and your pocket bindings. So you're just going to sew the bindings onto this curved edge here by folding it in half and serging those three raw edges together. So that's the first one serged on. Top stitch that seam right here to make it lay flat. Okay, there it's top stitched. And then you can just trim all these little edges. So the next step is going to be to sew that onto the front of the sweatshirt. So we have our front here. We'll just place it at the bottom. And it'll be about the exact same width. If it's wider, that means it got stretched out a little bit from the binding, and you can just trim it. It's not a big deal. Get pinned on. And then what you're going to do here is just do a straight stitch across the top, lock stitching at both ends, and then the same thing on the slanted edge. Both of them between like 1/8 and 1/4 inch in. And to avoid stretching, sometimes I'll lift the foot just a tiny bit to take the pressure off of the fabric. Now just trim all the threads. And you can trim the edges here if they don't look very clean. I'll leave mine for now and maybe trim after I'm done. Okay, for the next step then, we'll turn it right side out. And these side seams are going to get sewn together. So, match the side seam. Kind of have to manipulate it a little bit since they're at an angle. There's going to be a little bit of a closure here from the sleeve seam, but that's okay. That can get trimmed and cleaned up after. So once you have that lined up, you'll just start right at the corner, right at the armpit, about 1/4 inch in, straight stitch down to the top of the pocket. Lock stitch at both ends. Actually, I'll go the opposite way, from the pocket to the armpit. And then clean up that serger tail that's on the inside here. Okay, and do the other side the exact same. Okay, now the side seams are closed. Should be like that. And we'll start serging all the cuffs and bindings on. Do the sleeve cuffs and the neckband first. So with the neckband, this doesn't have a right or wrong side, but if it did, I would fold it in half with the right sides together and serge that end closed. And here you'll want to clip a notch right at the opposite end of the seam. And you'll turn your sweatshirt inside out. And fold the neckband in half again. This time the wrong sides will be together. And that seam will get folded onto itself like that to form that band. And pin that seam to the center back neck where there's a notch. And then the front notch that you just clipped gets pinned to the center front neck. And then that just gets serged all the way around. But you have to stretch that neckband to fit the neck as you go. I always serge from the inside like this so I can see all of those edges, and I leave the neckband or the cuff edges just a tiny bit in further from this so there's no missed gaps in the neckband. And to finish, you'll just overlap the end and the beginning of the seam by about 3/4 of an inch. And then just veer off. So you can clip and you can knot the ends if you want. I'll be top stitching it, so I don't need to. And then moving on to the sleeve cuffs. You'll do the same thing, fold them in half, parallel to that grain line. And if there's a right or a wrong side, it'll be right sides together. And then serge the side closed. And then fold it in half again with the seam on itself to make that cuff. At the end of the sleeve, put the cuff. This is the folded closed edge. Put that towards the inside. And the seam you kind of want towards the back or bottom of the sleeve. So just make sure that's matched up with the back half of the sweatshirt. So now that that's in, you'll just stretch it to fit the sleeve and serge it on in a circle, just like the neckband. And there you can trim and knot the end of your serger tail. Do the exact same thing for the other sleeve. Okay, now you can turn it right side out. And this is what the neckband and the sleeves should look like once they're done. Now all we have to do is the waistband. So there's the back, here's the front. First thing you'll do is fold it in half, right sides together. This is the opposite way, so it's against the grain line. The grain line's going up and down here. You're folding it against itself. And serge the ends closed. So the ends are closed here and the bottom is folded so it's closed. Now you just turn it right side out. For the front waistband. And then what you'll do here is you should have that notch clipped at the center and one here. So you'll just lay this up on the hem, right at that notch, and pin it in place. The pocket will also be in this seam. So what you're going to do is start, you'll just have to stretch it a little bit to fit, and you'll serge it on, but you don't want this to go beyond the edges, so just let it stop shortly inside of the edges. Yeah, we'll top stitch it and hide those seams afterwards. But we'll do the exact same thing for the back waistband next. So close the ends. And then pin the center notches together. Okay, and start just inside that end again. So the last step is going to be to top stitch the waistband here. You'll have that serger seam folded up towards the inside and that serger tail like tucked behind it. And then trim the serger tail that didn't get caught into that seam. And then do the same thing for the back waistband. Tuck that serger tail in. And trim all those threads. Okay, and for those of you that have a cover stitch, you can top stitch the neckband. And now all you have to do is iron it really well along these waistbands and the ribbing and the seams, and you'll be done.